The meeting room was cold and quiet. Admiral Jack Morrison sat at the long metal table and looked across at the alien faces, staring back at him. His hands were folded on the table. His face showed nothing, but inside, anger was building like a storm. Ambassador Lisa Turner sat next to him. She wore her best diplomatic smile, but Jack could see the worry in her eyes. On her other side, Captain Danny Rodriguez checked his tablet every few minutes. The messages from Earth kept coming in, but none of them were good news. The aliens on the other side of the table looked pleased with themselves. Too pleased. High Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire sat in the center chair. His forearms moved as he talked, making grand gestures. His voice was deep and harsh, like metal scraping against stone. "The terms are simple," Veltar said. His yellow eyes gleamed as he looked at the humans. "Your species will leave 12 star systems. You will pay us for the damage you have caused. You will tear down your defense stations around Earth." Lisa kept her voice calm. "Those are our home systems. Millions of people live there. You cannot expect us to just abandon them." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Expect? We do not expect anything. We demand it. Your species is young and foolish. You have taken what does not belong to you." Other aliens around the table nodded. The voidlings looked like ghosts made of light. They flickered in and out of sight as they moved. Their leader, a being called Whisper, spoke in a voice like wind through empty rooms. "The humans have expanded too quickly. They must learn their place." The insect creatures from the Hive Collective clicked and buzzed. Their compound eyes reflected the room's lights in 1,000 tiny rainbows. Their speaker, a drone called Prime 9, made sharp clicking sounds. Agreement. Humans disturb the natural order. They must be contained. The crystal beings called. The resonance hummed deep notes that made Jack's teeth hurt. Their leader was a tall blue crystal that pulsed with inner light. When it spoke, the words seemed to come from inside Jack's head. "The newcomers lack wisdom. They threaten the peace we have built." Jack had heard enough. He stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the floor. The sound was loud in the quiet room. All eyes turned to him. "You talk about peace," he said. His voice was quiet but firm. "But what you really want is surrender." Veltar's yellow eyes narrowed. "Call it what you wish, human. The result will be the same. Your species will submit, or it will be forced to submit." "Is that a threat?" Lisa asked. She was still trying to sound diplomatic, but ice was creeping into her voice. "It is a fact," the alien commander replied. He leaned forward, his four hands flat on the table. "The Zephyrian Third Fleet is already moving toward your solar system. They will arrive in 3 days. When these talks end tomorrow, you will sign our agreement, or your homeworld will burn." The room went dead silent. Even the crystal beings stopped their humming. Jack felt Danny tense beside him. Lisa's face went pale, but she did not look away from the alien's stare. "You would attack Earth," she whispered. "If necessary." Veltar sat back in his chair. "Though I hope it will not come to that. Your people seem reasonable. I am sure you will make the right choice." Jack looked around the table at the other aliens. Not one of them spoke up. Not one of them said this was wrong. They just sat there and watched, like spectators at a show they had already seen before. The voidling called Whisper flickered more rapidly. "The Zephyrians offered generous terms to the rest of us. Systems will be redistributed. Trade routes will be reorganized. All will benefit from human ... cooperation." Prime 9 clicked agreement. "The hive mind calculates positive outcomes. Human withdrawal creates new opportunities for expansion. The crystal being pulsed brighter. Harmony will be restored. The galaxy will find balance once more." Jack felt sick. These aliens were not just watching humans get threatened. They were happy about it. They were going to profit from it. Earth was being sold out by creatures who called themselves civilized. "I see," Jack said quietly. He reached for his communicator, a small device clipped to his uniform. Well, since we are all being so honest with each other, let me share something too. Veltar watched with amusement as Jack activated the device. Are you calling for help, Admiral? Will your fleet come to rescue you? How many ships do you have? 50? 100? It will not matter. Jack spoke a single word into the communicator. Thunderstorm. The aliens looked confused. Whisper flickered faster. What does this word mean? The voidling asked. It means the weather is about to change, Jack replied. He sat back down and folded his hands again. His face was calm, but Danny caught the slight smile at the corner of his mouth. Captain Rodriguez began typing rapidly on his tablet. Lieutenant Amy Foster, who had been quietly recording the meeting, started packing her equipment. She moved quickly but carefully, like someone who had practiced this many times. Veltar watched them with growing suspicion. What are you doing? The talks are not finished. Oh, I think they are, Lisa said. Her diplomatic mask was gone now. In its place was something harder, colder. You made your position very clear, Commander. You are not here to negotiate. You are here to dictate terms. And you made your choice very clear as well, the alien replied. You would rather see your world burn than accept reality. Reality, Jack laughed, but there was no humor in it. Commander, you have no idea what reality is about to look like. The alien delegates shifted uneasily. Something had changed in the room, but they could not put their claws or tentacles or whatever they had on what it was. The humans seemed ... different. Less worried, less afraid. Your bravado will not save you, Veltar snarled. In 3 days, when my fleet reaches Earth, you will remember this moment. You will remember that you could have chosen peace. Jack stood up again. This time, all 3 humans stood with him. Commander, he said, there is something you should know about humans. We have a saying, peace through strength. The problem with your plan is that you do not understand what human strength really looks like. I have seen your fleet, the alien commander replied. 40 ships, maybe 50. Children playing with toys. That, Jack said, as he walked toward the door, is exactly what we wanted you to think. The humans left the room together. Behind them, the alien delegates sat in confused silence. Veltar stared at the closed door, a cold feeling growing in his chest that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. In the hallway, Danny looked at his admiral. Think they bought it, sir. Jack smiled for real this time. Hook, line, and sinker, Captain. Now let us go watch the show. 3 days. The aliens thought they had 3 days to gloat and plan and divide up the spoils. What they did not know was that the real show was about to begin much sooner than they expected. The message had been sent. The code word had been spoken. Across the galaxy, in places the aliens had never found, sleek ships were powering up their engines and checking their weapons. The peace talks were over. It was time for the galaxy to learn what humans were really capable of. The next morning came too soon. Jack Morrison had not slept well. His dreams were full of burning worlds and screaming voices. But when he walked into the meeting room, his face was calm and ready. The aliens were already there, waiting. They looked pleased with themselves, like cats who had caught a mouse. Veltar was reading from a tablet, probably looking at reports from his fleet. The other aliens whispered among themselves in their strange languages. Lisa Turner sat down in her chair and opened her folder. Good morning, everyone. Shall we continue where we left off? Veltar looked up from his tablet. His yellow eyes were bright with satisfaction. There is nothing to continue, Ambassador. You have 18 hours to sign our agreement. After that, ... He made a gesture with his 4 hands that needed no translation. 18 hours, Jack repeated. And then what? Your fleet attacks Earth. My fleet will do what it must do, the alien commander replied. But it does not have to come to that. Be reasonable. Accept our terms. Your people will live. Whisper the voidling flickered in and out of sight. The third fleet is large, very large, 300 ships. Your homeworld cannot stand against such force. Prime 9 clicked and buzzed. Hive calculations show human defeat probability at 97.4%. Resistance is mathematically futile. The crystal being hummed a low note that made the walls vibrate. Wisdom lies in surrender. Pride leads only to destruction. Jack looked around the table. These creatures were not just threatening his species. They were enjoying it. They thought they had already won. They thought humans were beaten before the fight even started. 300 ships, he said slowly. That is impressive. Tell me, Commander, how long has it been since the Zephyrian Empire actually fought a real war? Veltar's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I mean, Jack continued, when was the last time you faced an enemy who fought back? Really fought back? Not some primitive species with wooden clubs. Not some peaceful traders with cargo ships. When did you last fight someone who could actually hurt you? The alien's face darkened. We have conquered 7 star systems in the last century. We know how to wage war. Conquered, Jack repeated. Not fought, conquered. You attacked people who could not defend themselves. That is not war, Commander. That is bullion. Veltar slammed his hands on the table. The sound echoed through the room like a gunshot. Enough. You will not lecture me about war, human. Your species has existed for what? A few thousand years. My people have ruled the stars for millions of years. And in all that time, Lisa said quietly, you have grown soft. You have forgotten what real war looks like. The other aliens shifted, uncomfortably. They had expected the humans to beg. They had expected tears and pleas for mercy. Instead, they were getting lectures about military history. Whisper flickered faster. The humans speak strangely for a defeated people. Maybe Prime 9 clicked. They do not understand their situation. The crystal being pulsed with confused colors. Perhaps their minds work differently than ours. Veltar stood up, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. Let me make this simple for you, he said, his voice rising. In 18 hours, my fleet will reach your solar system. They will find your pathetic 40 ships and your orbital stations. They will destroy them all. Then they will turn their weapons on Earth itself. He walked around the table, his heavy footsteps echoing in the quiet room. Your cities will burn. Your forests will die. Your oceans will boil. Your people will scream for the mercy they should have begged for today. Jack watched the alien pace. And after that, what happens after you destroy Earth? After that, Veltar snarled, the galaxy will remember what happens to species that defy the Zephyrian Empire. I see. Jack stood up slowly, and the rest of you are fine with this. He looked at each of the other aliens in turn. You are all comfortable with genocide, with the murder of billions of innocent people. Whisper's form flickered wildly. The humans brought this on themselves. They should have stayed in their corner of the galaxy. Prime 9's compound eyes reflected the lights. The hive regrets the necessity, but order must be maintained. The crystal being hummed sadly. All choices have consequences. The humans chose poorly. Jack felt something cold settle in his stomach. These creatures were not evil, exactly. They were worse than evil. They were indifferent. They could watch an entire species die and feel nothing but mild regret for the inconvenience. You know what I find interesting? He said conversationally. You keep talking about our 40 ships like they are all we have. Veltar stopped pacing. Are you saying you have more? Hidden fleets? Secret bases? Your industrial capacity is well known, human. You cannot hide entire fleets, can't we? Jack smiled, but it was not a nice smile. Tell me, Commander, how good are your sensors? The best in the galaxy, the alien replied proudly. Nothing can hide from Zephyrian technology. Nothing. Jack's smile grew wider. Are you sure about that? Danny Rodriguez checked his tablet again. The messages from Earth were getting more frequent now, and more interesting. He caught Jack's eye and nodded slightly. Amy Foster finished packing her equipment. She had been recording everything, but now she was switching to a different kind of device. Something that looked like a communicator, but was much more complex. Lisa Turner watched the aliens carefully. They were starting to look uncertain. Good. It was about time they felt some doubt. "You seem very confident," she said to Veltar, "but confidence can be dangerous. It can make you miss important details." "What details?" the alien commander demanded. "Well," Jack said, sitting back down. "For example, you assume that the ships you can see are all the ships we have. You assume that our shipyards are where you think they are. You assume that we build our fleets where you can watch us." Veltar's yellow eyes were getting brighter. "You are bluffing. We have watched your worlds for decades. We know where your ships come from." "Do you?" Jack asked. "Are you absolutely certain? Because I would hate for you to make a mistake based on bad information." The alien leaned forward. "Show me. If you have more ships, where are they? Bring them here. Let me see these secret fleets you claim to have." Jack looked at his watch. "Actually, Commander, I think you will be seeing them very soon, much sooner than you expect." Amy Foster activated her device. Lights blinked on its surface, and it began transmitting something. A signal that would travel faster than light to receivers scattered across the galaxy. "What is that device?" Whisper demanded, flickering rapidly. "Insurance," Jack replied. "We humans have another saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. We hoped these talks would go well, but we prepared for them to go badly." Vel moved toward Amy, but Danny Rodriguez stood up to block his path. The captain was smaller than the alien, but something in his stance made Veltar stop. "I would not do that if I were you," Danny said calmly. The alien commander looked around the room. Something had changed, but he could not figure out what. The humans still looked calm, like people who knew something he did not. "You are playing games," he snarled. "In 17 hours, my fleet will be at Earth. Games will not save you then." 17 hours, Jack agreed. "But Commander, who said anything about waiting 17 hours? Before Veltar could ask what he meant, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red. A voice came over the speakers, speaking in the trade language used by all species. "All ships report to battle stations. Unknown contacts detected on approach vector. Repeat, unknown contacts approaching the station." The aliens looked confused. The station was in neutral space, protected by treaty. No one was supposed to bring warships here. Jack stood up again. "Gentlemen," he said politely, "I think you should look out the window." They all moved to the large viewport that showed the space around the station. At first, everything looked normal. Stars twinkled in the distance. The station's lights reflected off nearby asteroids. Then space began to ripple. Ships appeared from nowhere. Not small ships, not patrol boats or escorts. Massive warships, their hulls dark and angular, their weapons already charged and ready. They materialized around the station like ghosts becoming solid. Veltar's yellow eyes went wide. "Impossible," he whispered. More ships appeared, and more. Within minutes, dozens of human vessels surrounded the station. They had been there all along, invisible and waiting. "Now then," Jack said pleasantly, "shall we renegotiate those terms?" 24 hours had passed since the ships appeared around the station. The alien delegates sat in their quarters, confused and afraid. They had sent urgent messages to their homeworlds, but the answers they received made no sense. How could humans hide entire fleets? How could their technology be so far ahead? Meanwhile, 3 star systems away, the Zephyrian Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. High Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Worldbreaker. The massive ship was 5 kilometers long and armed with enough weapons to crack a planet's crust. Report, Veltar commanded. His tactical officer, a younger named Kethver, checked his screens. Long-range sensors show the human homeworld directly ahead. Orbital defenses appear to be active. We are detecting approximately 40 human ships in defensive formation. Veltar smiled with all 4 mouths. 40 ships against 300. They must know they cannot win. Perhaps they hope to die with honor. Sir, another officer called out. We are receiving a transmission from Earth. Audio only. Put it through, Veltar ordered. A human voice filled the bridge. It was calm and confident, with no trace of fear. Zephyrian Fleet, this is President Karen Walsh, speaking from Earth. We have received word of your intentions. I want to make our position clear. The Zephyrian commander laughed. Speak, human leader. Tell me how you plan to surrender. We reject your terms, President Walsh continued. Earth will not abandon its colonies. We will not pay tribute to aggressors. We will not dismantle our defenses. If you wish to take these things from us, you will have to fight for them. Veltar's smile faded. You would sacrifice your entire species for pride. We would sacrifice everything for freedom, the president replied. That is what makes us human. The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's systems. Finally, Veltar spoke. Very well. If they wish to die as heroes, we will grant their wish. All ships, advance to attack formation. Target their orbital platforms first, then their fleet. Leave the planet intact until last. I want them to watch everything they built burn before they join it. The Zephyrian fleet began to move. 300 ships in perfect formation, their weapons charging, their shields at full power. They had done this before to other worlds. It was always the same. First came the fear, then the desperate resistance, then the inevitable surrender. But as they closed the distance to Earth, something felt different. The human ships were not running. They were not even trying to hide behind their orbital defenses. They sat in open space, waiting. Sir Kethver said, his voice uncertain. The human formation is ... strange. They are not positioned for defense. It is more like they are watching something. Watching what? Veltar demanded. There is nothing here but empty space and their pathetic fleet. That was when the impossible happened. Space around the Zephyrian fleet began to shimmer. The stars seemed to bend and twist. Reality itself appeared to be breaking apart. Then the ships appeared. They materialized from nothingness like predators emerging from tall grass. Dozens of them, hundreds of them, massive vessels that dwarfed even the Worldbreaker. Their hulls were black as the void between stars, and their weapons glowed with barely contained energy. The largest ship appeared directly above Veltar's flagship. It was easily twice the size of the Worldbreaker, shaped like a blade cutting through space. On its hull, human letters spelled out a name, UES, Retribution. Impossible, Veltar whispered, the same word he had spoken at the peace talks. Our sensors ... how did they ... More ships kept appearing. The 40 human vessels they had seen were joined by hundreds more. The Zephyrian fleet, which had seemed overwhelming moments before, was now outnumbered 3-1. A new voice came over the communication channels. It was deep and calm, with the authority of someone who had spent decades commanding ships in battle. Zephyrian fleet, this is Commander Steve Parker of the United Earth Starship Retribution. You are now surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepared to be boarded. Veltar found his voice. This is impossible. Where did these ships come from? Our intelligence said you only had 40 vessels. Your intelligence, Commander, Parker replied, was exactly what we wanted it to be. Did you really think we would build our entire fleet where you could watch us? On the bridge of the Worldbreaker, chaos was breaking out. Officers shouted reports and warnings. Sensor displays flickered with contact markers that had not been there seconds before. The tactical plot looked like a constellation of enemy ships. "Sir," Kethver called out, his voice cracking with panic, "I am reading over 400 human vessels. Some of these ships, sir, they are larger than battle stations. How is this possible?" Veltar stared at the main screen, where the massive human Dreadnought hung like a sword over his head. "How long?" he asked quietly. "Sir, how long have they been there? How long have they been watching us with those invisible ships?" The tactical officer checked his instruments with shaking hands. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors show no record of their approach. It is as if they have always been here." The truth was even worse than that. The human stealth ships had been following the Zephyrian fleet since it left port. They had watched every maneuver, listened to every communication, studied every weakness. The aliens had thought they were hunters, but they had been prey all along. Commander Parker's voice came again. "You have 30 seconds to comply. Drop your shields and power down your weapons. Any ship that does not comply will be treated as hostile." "This is madness," Veltar snarled. "Even if you have more ships than we thought, we are still the Third Fleet. We have conquered worlds. We will not surrender to jumped-up primitives." 20 seconds, Commander Parker announced calmly. Around the Zephyrian fleet, the human ships began to move. They flowed through space like a school of deadly fish, their movements perfectly coordinated. It was clear they had practiced this many times. "Sir," an officer called out, "several of our escort ships are requesting permission to surrender." "Denied," Veltar roared. "All ships, open fire. Show these humans what Zephyrian steel can do." The Worldbreaker's main guns fired first, sending streams of energy toward the nearest human ship. The other Zephyrian vessels followed, filling space with weapons fire. The human response was swift and devastating. The stealth ships opened fire with weapons that cut through Zephyrian shields like they were made of paper. Energy beams that should have been stopped cold punched through armor plating. Missiles that should have been intercepted by point defense systems struck home with perfect accuracy. Within minutes, a dozen Zephyrian ships were dead in space. Their hulls cracked open, and their crews evacuating to escape pods. The survivors watched in horror as their most advanced weapons seemed to do nothing against human armor. "Impossible," Veltar whispered again. "Our weapons, they are the most powerful in the galaxy." Where Kethver corrected him. "Sir, we are receiving surrender requests from 60% of the fleet." On the screen, escape pods streamed away from burning Zephyrian ships. The human vessels made no attempt to stop them. They were not interested in slaughter. They wanted surrender. Commander Parker's voice cut through the chaos. "Worldbreaker, this is your final warning. Surrender now, or join your escorts." Veltar looked around his bridge. Half his fleet was already gone. The other half was calling for permission to surrender. His flagship, the pride of the Zephyrian Navy, had taken no serious damage yet, but that was only because the humans were being careful. "How?" he asked over the open channel. "How did you do this? We are the most advanced species in the galaxy. We have ruled space for millions of years." "You ruled space," Commander Parker replied, "but you never really understood it. You saw what you wanted to see. You believed what you wanted to believe. And most importantly, you underestimated the one thing that humans do better than any other species." "What is that?" "We learn," the human commander said simply. "Every piece of technology you ever sold us, we studied. Every battle you ever fought, we analyzed. Every weakness you ever showed, we remembered. While you were celebrating your superiority, we were building ships you could not see and weapons you could not stop." The Worldbreaker shuddered as human weapons found their mark. Lights flickered on the bridge. Alarms wailed throughout the ship. Sir Kethver reported, "Hull breach on decks 14 through 20. Engineering reports engine failure. Weapons are offline." Veltar closed his eyes. In less than an hour, His mighty fleet had been reduced to scrap metal and escape pods. The humans had not just defeated them, they had humiliated them. "All ships," he said quietly, "stand down. Power down weapons and prepare for boarding." The great Zephyrian Third Fleet, terror of 7 star systems, surrendered without firing another shot. The news traveled faster than light itself. Across the galaxy, on every world and space station, the impossible story spread. The mighty Zephyrian Third Fleet had surrendered to humans, not destroyed, not defeated in glorious battle. They had simply given up when faced with ships that appeared from nowhere. In the council chambers on Kepler Prime, chaos ruled. The alien delegates who had been so confident the day before now scrambled to understand what had happened there. Secure communications buzzed with panicked messages from their homeworlds. Admiral Jack Morrison sat calmly at the same table where he had been threatened just hours before. Captain Danny Rodriguez stood behind him, reading reports from a tablet that seemed to get more interesting with each update. Lieutenant Amy Foster had set up a new device that projected holographic images in the center of the room. The aliens stared at the humans like they were looking at ghosts. "This is impossible," Whisper said, flickering in and out of sight faster than ever before. The Zephyrian fleet was the most powerful force in this sector. 300 ships, advanced weapons, experienced crews. Was, Jack corrected gently, past tense. As of 2 hours ago, that fleet no longer exists as a fighting force. The crystal being called Resonance hummed in confused frequencies. "How?" "Our sensors detected only 40 human vessels in the Earth system. Our intelligence networks reported the same number." Amy Foster activated her holographic projector. Images filled the air above the table. Ship construction facilities hidden in asteroid fields. Massive shipyards built inside hollow moons. Construction docks floating in the empty space between stars, invisible to long-range sensors. "For 2 years," Jack explained, "you watched us build ships in our orbital yards above Earth and Mars. What you did not know is that for every ship you could see, we built 3 more in places you never thought to look." Prime 9 the Hive. Collective's representative clicked and buzzed frantically. The hive mind calculated human industrial capacity based on observed construction. The calculations were precise. They showed only limited shipbuilding ability. "Your calculations were perfect," Danny Rodriguez said, looking up from his tablet, "based on what you could see, but that was the point. We made sure you could only see what we wanted you to see." The holographic display changed, showing sleek, black ships moving through space like sharks through dark water. Their hulls seemed to bend light around them, making them nearly impossible to detect. "Stealth technology," Jack continued. "Not just hiding from sensors, but hiding from reality itself. We studied every sensor type used by every species in the galaxy. Then we built ships that could fool them all." Veltar, who had been brought to the station in restraints just an hour ago, sat slumped in a chair at the end of the table. His forearms hung limp at his sides. His yellow eyes, once so bright with confidence, now stared at nothing. "How long?" he asked in a broken voice. "How long have you been watching us?" Jack looked at the defeated alien commander with something that might have been pity. "Since the day you first threatened a human colony, every move your fleets made, every base you built, every weapon you tested, we were there, watching and learning." The holographic display showed more images, Zephyrian ships in formation, unaware that invisible human vessels were recording everything. Alien shipyards where workers built weapons, while human spies took careful notes. Military exercises where the participants never knew they were being studied. The escort ships that surrendered immediately. Commander Parker's voice came through the speakers from Earth. They did so because their captains recognized the hopelessness of their situation. "We knew their shield frequencies, their weapon capabilities, their armor thickness. We had studied every weakness." Whisper flickered almost solid with shock. "You have been spying on all of us." Not spying, Lisa Turner corrected, speaking for the first time since the meeting resumed. Learning. There is a difference. We never attacked your worlds or threatened your people. We simply watched and prepared. Prepared for what? The crystal. Being asked, its harmonic voice cracking with stress. For this day, Jack replied simply. For the day when someone would try to destroy humanity simply because we existed. We hoped it would never come, but we prepared for it anyway. The holographic display changed again, showing the battle at Earth from multiple angles. The Zephyrian fleet advancing in perfect formation. The moment when space itself seemed to come alive with human ships. The one-sided fight that followed. Your weapons, Veltar whispered, staring at the images. They cut through our shields like they were not there. We studied captured Zephyrian technology for months, Amy Foster explained. Every piece of equipment you ever sold to neutral traders. Every damaged ship part that ended up in scrap yards. We learned how your shields work. Then we built weapons, specifically designed to defeat them. Prime Nine's compound eyes reflected the holographic light as it watched Zephyrian ships being systematically disabled. The hive mind does not understand. How did primitive humans develop such advanced technology so quickly? We are not primitive, Jack said, his voice gaining an edge for the first time. We never were. We are different. We learn faster than any other species in the galaxy, because we have to. We are alone out here, surrounded by civilizations that are older and more established than ours. He stood up and walked around the table, his footsteps echoing in the quiet room. You called us children playing with toys. You thought our short lives made us weak, but our short lives are exactly what make us strong. We cannot afford to waste time. We cannot afford to move slowly. Every generation of humans must learn everything the previous generation knew, then build on it. The aliens watched him pace, seeing him differently now. This was not the desperate leader of a defeated species. This was a predator explaining how he had stalked his prey, while you spent centuries perfecting the same old technologies. Jack continued, we took your knowledge and improved it. We combined ideas from a dozen different species. We tried things you never thought of because they seemed impossible. Danny looked up from his tablet again. Sir, we are getting reports from across the galaxy. 17 different species have contacted Earth in the last hour. They all want to discuss trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Jack smiled grimly. How quickly the political winds change. Yesterday, we were pariahs to be crushed. Today, we are potential allies to be courted. The crystal being pulsed with nervous colors. The resonance wishes to apologize for our previous position. We were misinformed about human capabilities. As were we all, Whisper added, flickering rapidly. The voidlings extend our regrets for supporting the Zephyrian demands. Prime 9 clicked agreement. The hive mind humans represent valuable alliance potential. Previous assessment was in error. Jack stopped pacing and looked at each of them in turn. Your apologies are noted, but they come rather late, do they not? Yesterday, you were ready to watch my species burn. Today, you want to be friends. What changed? Your strength, Veltar said quietly from his chair. We did not know you were strong. Exactly, Jack replied. You judged us based on what you thought we were, not on what we actually were. You saw young species and assumed we were weak. You saw short lives and assumed we were foolish. You saw small numbers and assumed we were helpless. The holographic display showed the current situation around Earth. The captured Zephyrian fleet under heavy guard. Human ships patrolling the system in formations that would have been impossible to detect just days before. Earth itself, no longer appearing vulnerable and alone, but revealed as the center of a military power that spanned dozens of star systems. The question now, Lisa said, is what happens next. The Zephyrian Empire has committed an act of war against humanity. They threatened genocide. They brought a fleet to our homeworld with the intention of destroying it. Veltar raised his head. What are your terms for surrender? Jack returned to his seat. Surrender? Commander, I think you misunderstand the situation. This was not a battle between equals that one side lost. This was an attempted murder that was stopped by the intended victim. He activated his own communicator. President Walsh, the Council is ready to hear Earth's response to the Zephyrian aggression. President Walsh's voice filled the room, calm and measured as always. The United Earth government does not recognize the Zephyrian Empire's right to make demands of humanity. We do not accept their claim to our star systems. We reject their authority over human space. The aliens sat in stunned silence. They had expected negotiations, perhaps reparations. They had not expected a complete rejection of Zephyrian power. Furthermore, the president continued, Earth demands the immediate withdrawal of all Zephyrian forces from human space. The Empire will pay reparations for the damage caused by their aggression. They will submit to galactic oversight to prevent future acts of violence. And if we refuse? Veltar asked weakly. Jack's smile was cold as deep space. Commander, you are in no position to refuse anything. Your fleet is captured. Your homeworld is now within range of weapons you cannot see or stop. The choice is simple. Accept our terms, or face the consequences. The room fell silent, except for the hum of the station's life support systems. Finally Veltar spoke. We accept. 1 month later, the same council chamber looked very different. The walls had been repainted. New furniture filled the room. Most importantly, the seating arrangement had changed completely. Admiral Jack Morrison sat at the head of the table. Now, Ambassador Lisa Turner sat to his right, with Captain Danny Rodriguez beside her. The alien delegates sat along the sides of the table, no longer in positions of authority but as petitioners, hoping for favorable terms. Veltar was not there. The former Zephyrian commander was in a detention facility, awaiting trial for war crimes. In his place sat Subcommander Naravel, a younger Zephyrian with scared eyes and a much more humble attitude. The reparations agreement is ready for signing, Lisa announced, placing a thick document on the table. The Zephyrian Empire will pay 2 billion credits over the next 10 years. These funds will be used to compensate human colonies for the disruption caused by Zephyrian threats. Naravel nodded quickly. The Empire agrees to these terms. We also formally apologize for the actions of our former leadership. Jack studied the alien's face. Fear and respect warred in those yellow eyes. Good. The Zephyrians had learned their lesson the hard way. And the territorial disputes, he asked, resolved. In humanity's favor, Naravel replied immediately. All Zephyrian claims to human settled systems are withdrawn. We recognize Earth's right to expand and colonize as they see fit. The other aliens around the table watched this exchange with careful attention. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted overnight, and everyone was still figuring out what that meant. Whisper, the Voidling representative, flickered nervously. The Voidling Collective wishes to formalize our friendship with humanity. We offer full access to our phase shift technology in exchange for defensive agreements. Prime 9 clicked agreement. The Hive Collective also seeks alliance. We offer biological expertise and industrial capacity. The Hive Mind has calculated significant mutual benefits. The crystal being called Resonance hummed in harmonious tones. The Resonance offers our crystalline computing technology. We seek only peaceful coexistence and profitable trade. Jack leaned back in his chair. It was interesting how quickly these species had gone from threat to friendship once they realized what humans were capable of. But he was not naive. Their fear would fade over time, and some of them might try to challenge humanity again in the future. We appreciate your offers, he said diplomatically. Earth is always interested in peaceful relationships with our galactic neighbors. However, any agreements will be based on mutual respect and equality. Amy Foster activated her holographic projector again. This time, the images showed something different. ships under construction in human shipyards. Not the hidden facilities this time, but new yards built in open space where anyone could see them. Construction of the 4th Stealth Fleet is proceeding ahead of schedule, she reported. The UES Vengeance will be ready for deployment in 6 months, followed by the UES Justice and UES Freedom. The alien delegates tried to hide their nervousness, but Jack could see it in their posture, their expressions, their involuntary movements. They were beginning to understand that humanity's reveal of strength had been just the beginning, not the end. Danny looked up from his tablet. "Sir, we have confirmation from the Kepler Defense Command. The new monitoring station is operational. All traffic in and out of this system is now being tracked by human sensors." "Excellent," Jack replied. "And the other monitoring stations?" "Installation proceeding on schedule, sir. By the end of the year, human sensor networks will cover all major shipping lanes in this sector." The aliens exchanged glances. They were realizing that humanity was not just defending itself anymore. It was actively expanding its influence and capabilities throughout local space. President Walsh's voice came through the speakers, addressing the assembled delegates. "My friends, the events of the past month have shown us all the dangers of miscommunication and misunderstanding. Earth proposes the creation of a new Galactic Security Council with representatives from all major species." Niravel raised one of her 4 hands tentatively. "What would be the purpose of this council?" "To prevent future conflicts through dialogue and cooperation," the president replied. "To establish common standards for interspecies relations. To ensure that no species ever again faces extinction because of political disagreements." It sounded noble and peaceful. The aliens nodded and made agreeable sounds, but Jack knew, and they probably knew too, that what the president was really proposing was a system where Earth would have a major voice in galactic affairs. "There is one more matter to discuss," Lisa said, pulling out another document. "The question of galactic peacekeeping." The room grew quiet. This was the topic everyone had been dreading. "Recent events have shown that some species are willing to use military force to impose their will on others," she continued. "The galaxy needs a way to respond to such aggression quickly and effectively." Jack stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. In the distance, barely visible against the stars, human ships patrolled the system. Their sleek forms moved with purpose and confidence. "Earth proposes the creation of a galactic peacekeeping force," he said without turning around. "Volunteer ships from all member species, under unified command, dedicated to protecting peaceful worlds from aggression." "And who would command this peacekeeping force?" Whisper asked, though the voidling probably already knew the answer. Jack turned back to the table. Given humanity's recent experience with interspecies conflict resolution, Earth would be willing to take on that responsibility. The silence stretched for long moments. Finally, Niravel spoke for all of them. "The Zephyrian Empire supports this proposal." One by one, the other delegates added their agreement. They did not really have a choice, and everyone in the room knew it. President Walsh's voice returned. "Excellent. The first peacekeeping fleet will be assembled within 60 days. Commander Steve Parker will serve as Fleet Admiral, with Captain Danny Rodriguez as his deputy." Danny nodded gravely, accepting the promotion and responsibility. Jack felt a moment of pride. The young officer who had once been his aide would now help maintain peace across multiple star systems. "Are there any other matters to discuss?" Lisa asked. Resonance hummed a questioning tone. "What of the Zephyrian war criminals? Will they face trial?" Jack's expression grew cold. "Former High Commander Veltar and his senior staff will be tried under the new Galactic War Crimes Tribunal. The evidence of their intentions is clear. They planned genocide. The penalty for such crimes is life imprisonment." The alien delegates nodded soberly. Justice would be served, and it would serve as a warning to others who might consider similar actions in the future. As the meeting concluded, the delegates filed out one by one, They spoke in hushed tones, already making plans to adapt to the new reality. Some would try to profit from closer relations with humanity. Others would simply try to avoid attracting human attention. Jack remained at the window, watching the stars. Lisa joined him there. "Think it will last?" she asked quietly. "The peace?" "For a while," Jack replied. "Fear is a powerful motivator, but fear fades over time. Eventually, someone will test us again, and when they do," Jack smiled grimly, "when they do, they will discover that everything they have seen so far is nothing compared to what humanity is really capable of." The stealth fleets were just the beginning. Outside the window, space looked peaceful and empty, but Jack knew better. Hidden in that darkness were sensors and weapon platforms and ships that could appear without warning. The galaxy had learned to respect human strength, but they had only seen a fraction of it. Earth would maintain the peace, not through treaties and negotiations, but through the simple understanding that attacking humanity was suicide. It was not the peace he had hoped for when he first sat down at this table, but it was the peace that the galaxy had chosen. In the distance, a new ship emerged from hyperspace. It was sleek and black, invisible to most sensors, carrying weapons that could level mountains and shields that could stop asteroid impacts. On its hull, human letters spelled out its name, UES, determination. The galaxy was learning what it meant to coexist with humanity. For those who chose friendship, it would be profitable and peaceful. For those who chose aggression, it would be swift and final. Jack Morrison smiled as he watched the ship take its position in the patrol formation. Humanity had gone to the stars to find friends and knowledge and wonder. They had found all of those things. They had also found that sometimes, the best way to keep the peace was to be ready for war. The peace talks had ended the day the Terran stealth Dreadnought appeared, but the real work of building a better galaxy was just beginning.